Hola, welcome back to another session of character modeling, and this week we're switching gears a little bit. We're going to be diving into Marvelous Designer. So we're going to put ZBrush and sculpting aside and for a bit and dig into making a costume for this lady. Now, as you guys know, SheUn is actually a character I created for a comic book. It's a 3-part story, and SheUn is the star of that story. SheUn is a fashionista. She does not like to wear the same thing all the time. She likes to change stuff up. By part 2, she got a bit of an upgrade. So Pops gave her an upgrade for her boots, and SheUn decided she wanted to change out the costume and went with this retro look, this little pleated miniskirt, and that's what we're going to be building. And just to explain a pleated miniskirt, what happens is all these nice little folds, these repeating folds, are created by folding the material back on top of itself and then stitching the results into a waistband, which makes it a little bit more interesting to look at. It also creates a challenge for us. It's not a simple skirt, but I love a challenge. I think we all do. Makes life interesting, so why not? Let's do it. Let's see if we can make this pleated miniskirt. Okay, here we are in Marvelous Designer, and we've got our SheUn as our avatar. And to begin with, I think before we actually attempt to make the skirt, what we should do is take a look at just making a simple single pleat, so we can wrap our head around that, and then we'll expand upon that and make the complete skirt. So over here, I've made this little test piece of material. This is going to represent our waistband. I'll pull up the 2D garment window as well, and in here, expand that a little bit. Just grab one of these line segments here, and you'll see the width is 100. I happen to have made it nice round 100 there, and that will also coincidentally represent the width of our final pleat. Now, so this is our waistband, and I will quickly draw out kind of roughly the material that is going to be the pleat itself. And this segues nicely into some useful features I've recently discovered with Marvelous Designer, which is, if that same line segment tool there, edit pattern tool, sorry, you can right click on your line and change the length, make it precisely what you want. So since the material is going to fold over on itself, we're going to need the waistband times 3. So that would be 300. And by the way, you can change the length uniformly by just clicking on both. Otherwise, you can specify scaling from either left or right, and that does become useful down the road. So for now, we're just going to uniformly scale it, make it 300, and do the same to the bottom. The length, the height, I'm not so concerned about for these demo purposes. It's just the width that really matters here. Make sure both for uniform scale, and now we have once again nice even top and bottom dimensions. And over here we can see that little piece of material has appeared in the 3D viewport, and just doesn't really matter if I just get it close enough. Anywho, I will right out the gate. Let's make sure that this is frozen. I have frozen this material, so it's just going to hang in space. When I run the simulation over here, this material isn't going to do anything, but the pleated material is going to stitch itself to that. So now we have it evenly. We have a nice 300 length in top and bottom. We can now once again right click on that line segment, and this time we're going to split it, and we're going to use a uniform split option, and we're going to make 3 segments. So there you go. Now each we get nice evenly split segments, each 100 units long, and we'll do the same to the bottom. Oops, that's the changed length. We want to split, uniform, and 3 segments again. Cool. So we need those anchor points. The reason we did that was we need to drop some internal lines. So in order for the material to fold on itself, we have to create a fold line, and those fold lines are going to snap to these points. So you go up here and you'll find the internal line tool right here. Looks like that, but it's an outline. And by default, these, the line will snap to those points. So you just click on the top point, double click on the bottom point, and it should create, come on baby, sometimes it's a bit slow, create that point. So now we're almost done. We've got these internal lines, so they're not actually welded to the exterior shape, so to speak, but they do act like basically they can act like creases if you want. So what we want to do now, since the material has to fold in on itself, we have to set a fold angle. Now the first piece, so if by default you can see up here the fold angle is 180, so 180 is neutral. So to fold completely over on itself, we'll set this first one to 0, and then we'll set the second one the other way to 360. Voila. So we've got our internal line set up here, and okay, testing 1 2 3. Okay, so now we do have our internal lines set here with their fold angles, and the next thing we're going to do is stitch the pleat. And the good news is that Marvel Designer comes with this auto pleat tool. So you start with the target, which is the waistband here, and then once you've clicked on that second point, you then switch to your pleat material and just drag out to between the 2 ends. And voila, that should do it. So nothing is going to happen in the 3D viewport yet because we have not yet run the sim. So let's do that. So what we're hoping to see happen here is this material fold in on itself and subsequently fold itself to our frozen hemline up here. Let's see what happens. Where she goes. And voila. Just hide the 2D for a minute. There you go. So if I tug on this, see it's all folded over itself. And, looks quite nice and tidy. I'm quite happy about that. But that's just one pleat. What if you need a whole bunch of them and you need to make a skirt? How are we going to do that? Okay, so let's take a look at making the actual skirt. We're going to start with a waistband. We're going to need a waistband, and I've earlier I did figure out the measurements I need. I'm going to make this strip here nice, not too thick, a bit thin, and we're going to make this sucker about 7/98, both ends for uniform scale again. There we go. So that'll be her waistline. I'm making it a little wider so it kind of hangs down a bit. Doesn't ride too high on her hips. Actually, I might make it a little thicker. Give me some more. Let's see. Excuse me for a minute. Just grab these points. Shunt her up a bit. Shift click to snap it to the grid. And okay, there we go. So we've got our waistband. The next thing we'll do is just subdivide this line. You remember, so we're gonna have these folds repeatedly stitch into our waistband. So we're going to need to subdivide the waistband, but just along the bottom edge, because that's where it's stitching into. So we use our trusty split tool again, and I happen to know that I want about 20. I want basically 21 pleats. I think is a nice density. So we're gonna go with that. So uniform split of 21, and that gives us a segment length of 38. So each pleat's 38 units wide. And so now we're going to make the skirt material, and we'll drag that sucker out. It's kind of arbitrary right now. Probably try a little bit longer than that. Okay, now if I worked out that, so each segment's 38 units, and as you guys remember, a pleat's going to need to be folded on itself 3 times, so 3 times 38 is 114 units for a single pleat. And we are going to need 21 of these, so 114 times 21, and you get 2,394. And so we're going to make this segment here, change length, both again, uniform, sorry, 2,394, my bad. Okay, there we go. Both ends, boom. Boom, baby. Change 2,394 again. There we go. That's our skirt material. Looks pretty crazy wide right now, but remember, it's going to be cut in thirds basically. Okay, so we have this line segment 2,394. We're going to divide it by 38, the width of our individual pleat, and that gives us 63 segments. So up to the split tool, uniform, and 63. Do the same to the top. 63. Okay, cool. So far so good. Okay, just as we did with the example pleat, we now need to add those internal fold lines to our skirt material here. That will take a bit, but I'm not going to make you guys sit through the whole thing. Once again, we just go to the internal polygon line tool up here, zoom in nice and close, and if we are close enough to those points, double click on the end to finish the line, and just go through each one of these until we're finished. So here I've gone through, I've added all the internal lines, and you'll notice I've removed some of those segments. The reason I did that is because we only need these fold lines from this point to this point. The material is flat, so therefore we could just take those out of the mix. And just as we did with the little example pleat, I've gone through and set the fold angles. So we have the first one at 0, the second one at 360. We skip a step and repeat, and that's it. So now all we need to do is sew this thing up and sim it. And so Marvelous Designer does have a tool for automating this, which is very good. So up here we have the Auto Pleat tool, and what you're going to do, just like the example, but a little different because now you've got a bunch of different segments. Click on the first point, drag out to the last point, and then if that's still active, and it's got to think about this a little bit, go down here to the first point of the skirt material and just drag across. Oops. To the very end. And you got to watch. You notice there it's screwing up a little bit, so that should be that. There we go. And there, man, look at that. Isn't that crazy?
Before we do the final sim on the skirt, I am going to utilize arrangement points. These were auto-generated by Marvelous Designer. He was able to look at the characters' volumes and figure out where they should go, which is really nice. So we'll simply grab the hemline and pick a point, one of these little blue dots here, and voila. Now I'm going to move the hemline up a little bit so it's got further to fall, so there's less chance that it's going to there is a chance it could just fall right off her body, because as the pleats are trying to stitch into the hemline, you know, that could go wrong. So that's why I will keep it as close as possible. And we have to just last stitch on the back of the hem. We'll leave the pleat skirt open initially. So we're kind of doing this in layers. We're going to sim the hemline and the skirt, stitching into the hemline. And once we've got that, we'll stitch up the back. This is always fun to watch. So it kind of sims in slow motion, which is nice. Used to be doing all right. Full disclosure, I've been mucking around with these pleated skirts for a little bit, and it has been a challenge to get things exactly right. You guys are seeing me getting everything right first time, but if you try this at home, you know, don't be surprised if you have some trouble getting the pleats to stitch properly. A little bit of trial and error. This is so cool, like being able to edit this stuff in real time. So back in the day, I used to, if I had a costume like this to make, I would have had to hand sculpt it, which was fun, but I love the results you get from Marvelous Designer. So I'm definitely a convert when it comes to costumes, Marvelous Designer. So after a bit of tugging around at the skirt, I've got it about where I want it sitting. I'm reasonably happy with it for now. Next time we're going to build the belt, which will ultimately deform the skirt, put the skirt in the final pose, and I'll show you how I get it to ZBrush, and hopefully we'll start looking at these cybernetic legs, which I'm looking forward to building. I think that will be fun, a nice change of pace, get into some hard surface modeling, and I do want to say special thanks before we go, special thanks to Andrew Chen, who provided some of the tracks on these videos. I do like his music and he lets me use it, so thank you, Andrew. And finally, if you guys are interested in learning more about this character I've been working on, like, you know, maybe you want to check out the comic book itself, I will provide a link in the description below. So cheers, and catch you guys next time.